Hey everybody, welcome back to Cam's Flies. I'm Cam, and today the caddis pattern I'm going to be doing is the Buckskin Caddis Larvae, originally tied by Stalcup in the Federation of Fly Fishers Fly Pattern Encyclopedia. Here's one I tied up in the vise earlier. The hook I'm using is a Montana Fly Company Stimulator hook. This is a 3XL curved shank, number 14. And get my hook situated in my Renzetti master vise. The thread I'm using is Semperfli Nano Silk. This is 12/0 in the color brown. Spooled up on my Norvice auto bobbin. I'm getting my thread started about 2 hook eye lengths behind my hook eye. I start my thread right about where I'm going to start my midge tubing here. This is a Hareline midge tubing. The color is Buckskin. So I go back up to where I first started my thread tie-in and tie in my tubing. Pulling back on this tubing slightly as I am tying it down so I can get it compressed down as tightly as possible. And same thing with this front tag end. I'm trying to cinch that down as tightly as possible and get everything nice and neat. Work my way back to the tubing, and now I'll be moving on to a dry fly dubbing. The color I'm using is a light Cahill. You probably could use any color here, but I went with this color just because I didn't want to cause too much of a color disruption underneath of the buckskin tubing. I wanted to maintain that color, so I went with something that was like colored. And get my dubbing going and start out thin and just get a taper all the way up to the tubing tie-in point. I'll speed through this process here. Just try to get a decent taper going all the way up to just behind the tie-in point for the thread and midge tubing. And now I will start wrapping my midge tubing. I'm tugging on it slightly so I flatten the tubing out as I wrap it, and I'm doing overlapping wraps, just slight overlapping wraps to give the back end of the wrap a little bit of a flare out. Gives it that nice segmented look. I get it right up to just behind where I tied in the tubing and tie it off again. And instead of cutting it off right there, I wrap it all the way up to the hook eye. It secures it better, and I'm going to be adding some bulk here anyways with the dubbing I'll be adding for the thorax. So a little bit of extra bulk from the tubing will do me some good. And get it extra tightened down. And this here is some Wonder Wax. Love this stuff. It's not too sticky. doesn't make a complete mess and stick to everything. Get that applied on there. I put it on there for this dubbing. It doesn't want to always stick to my thread as much, so I'm going to use that wax. This is a SLF synthetic living fiber dubbing, the Dave Whitlock. I'm using the color Dragonfly Dark. And get this applied on there. I noodled it a bit too much here. I want it kind of buggier, so I unwrap here and kind of fray things out and then do a bit of a reapply. You don't want like a dry fly dubbing noodle. You want a buggy noodle. I did hit this with a little bit more Wonder Wax. I just did not include that in this portion of the video. I didn't show it. But each application of this synthetic living fiber, I put more wax on my thread. Just want to build up a decent little thorax, kind of match the fatter taper of the Midge tubing. Once it matches that, you can go ahead and tie it off at the head. Whip finish, give it a 4 or 5 turn whip finish and cut your thread free. And if you have some wild fibers like I do here, trim them up. Don't trim it too much. You see, I leave a little bit of a crazy look to it. You want it to look buggy. This here is the Loon Flow, some of my favorite UV glue. Really gets into the threads. It doesn't leave a large glob, as you can see, just sinks right on in. And zap that with my UV torch. And that is it, folks. The finished product of the Buckskin Caddis Larvae. If you guys liked it, hit that like button, and I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. I'll see you on the next one. Tight lines.